Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of Minecraft in an awfully long time. I've been doing other things like Borderlands, Portal and Terraria and other stuff which hasn't been out yet, but I will release it. Oh, it counts being in the water. But yeah, this is actually the world that I use for creative purposes. Just move my microphone away from my mouth a little bit so you just can't hear the sound of me breathing constantly. But yeah, I finally sort of got around to checking the comments on my videos. Apparently squid die here. And someone said that they wanted a tutorial on how I build my mob spawner. And if you want the tutorial that taught me, you need to search on YouTube for a guy called Monkey Farm. He does an awful lot of Minecraft videos. He's researched everything you could ever think of to do with Minecraft. He's one of the Minecraft YouTubers. But yeah, but despite that, I'm going to show you how it's done. I might actually do it in mid-air just to be less of a pain. No, I'll do it on the ground. So, first things first, I will need some flat space. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use mid-air. Also, it means that I don't have to put up with those slimes. Yeah, that is why there are torches everywhere. I couldn't be bothered with all the enemies, they're becoming a pain. So, we'll start building from the bottom up. So the first thing you need is the way out at the bottom. So this needs to be 8 long at least. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that has to be 2 wide. And this is effectively going to be the bit where when the enemies drop down, I'm not sure why it keeps sticking, well, when the enemies drop down there will be some water on here that then carries them along. And literally the only thing you need for this is a block, water, and no, that is actually it. I mean, my version I've used wood and there's some bits of stone and the stairs up around the outside. That's a bat? That's adorable. I've never seen one before. So anyway, yeah, we've got this bit here, and I am going to actually lower this by 2 blocks, simply because there's actually going to be a pool of water here, and the enemies are going to drop into it, and there needs to be a pool so that they don't just die. I mean, I know they're going to die later anyway, but you want them to die in a controlled fashion. And the one of these I've actually got just dropped straight into the water on the sea on the world that I play on. So first things first, let's fill the bottom layer up with water, and then what I'm actually going to do is extend this trough. Now I don't think this will be long enough to get the enemies out from underneath, but we shall see. Because if it isn't, then all I have to do is sort of start building along there. But for the time being, now trick here is to actually cover that over, then put water here. And the reason I said 8 blocks is because that is the exact length, including the source block, that water will flow for, and this will force the enemies along there, so you don't just have to wait for them to walk. I mean, you could, I just don't feel it's a very good idea. And then I'm actually going to fill up these squares down here, which you can't see happening, but those now contain water source blocks rather than water flow blocks, as I call them. So for example, these 2 blobs here, they're actual bits of water that have been placed, whereas these are just the ones that extend off of them. So that's the drop pool created. Like I said, it might not extend far enough. So next up, let's do the actual sort of tunnel. So it has to be at least 2 squares tall in here above the level of the water, otherwise what's going to happen is the enemies are just going to catch on the ceiling when they try to swim. Because whilst they need 2 vertical spaces, they will still sort of swim up in the water, and that will make them not fit down the little corridor I'm just building. So that is as far as that needs to go, and then I can build across here and across here. So I'm only going to show you one layer of this. The idea is that you sort of build these modules and build them up, and you can go for more complex designs yourself. But now that we've got this square over sort of around the dropping area, we want to extend it out by 7 blocks in this direction. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that makes a total of 7 that I've just placed, and the 8th one, which is part of the square. So what I'm now going to do is put up barriers around the edge, like so. And now, if I do this, we have another thing forcing monsters down there. So let's just build up the rest of the wall a little bit, because otherwise the monsters could fall in the water and then just climb straight back out, and that is something we do not want to happen. And you only need 1 block above it. You could put more, but if you put too many, first of all you waste an awful lot of blocks and vertical space, and second of all the monsters are quite likely to not voluntarily jump off. Like this, they will eventually just randomly walk off. Is that a giant? I don't care what that is. I can go around those later. So I'm going to quickly do the rest of these. So need to extend that along. Yeah. It's also actually worth noting that I'm leaving diagonal spaces here, so that these blocks there aren't filled in. I'm inside my mob spawner. That is how it is, but from the outside all those diagonals are filled in, because if you don't, sometimes light filters through, and the idea of this is to make it completely dark inside. So it also actually becomes quite difficult to build in single player, in survival, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because in survival, if you build this, what you'll have is a room which is gradually getting darker and darker, and more difficult for you to move around, and the enemies will simply turn up sort of in this room, and if you ever have to leave it to get more materials, they'll sort of fill it up. So I have a little bit of confession to make. I tend to actually edit the one on my single player world in peaceful mode. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you see this isn't enough to get out from under it, so I shall extend that a little bit in a few moments. I'm not going to build the full thing, simply because otherwise this video will take much longer than it needs to. So it probably won't be quite as dark as necessary, but I do believe that somewhere up there is actually the prototype that I built to test that it worked. So I can just go and show you that one. So now we've got this shape, and let's fill it up with water in the necessary places. Like so. So now, if mobs fall into this area, they will be forced down into there. Now it's worth noting that mobs will always swim up. They may move around in the water, but they effectively, it's like a player just constantly holding jump. And that's actually what we use to make them go up at the end. But first let's just finish this off. So what you now do is build out platforms to fill the space. It's actually easier if I had welded it. I should have thought to do this on a server, perhaps. Oh well. Yes, you build out this big platform. Oh, I thought of another block that I do need to do this. Where are we? There. You need half slabs, and I'll get to that in a moment. But let's just build a little wall around here. Now this is as high as I'm going to build this, but what you actually need to do is build it up completely over the top. You need to have these platforms in all 4 quadrants. Build this wall up 2 squares high at least, and then cover over the roof so it gets dark inside. But the reason you need the half slabs is to stop spiders spawning, because if a spider falls down there, a spider can actually get back out just by walking up the wall. And the way you stop spiders spawning is with these half slabs. You just place them at intervals 2 blocks apart, and due to the spawning logic the spiders use, this will actually prevent them from spawning at all, because mobs cannot spawn on half slabs, which is why on some servers, apparently, I've never seen it, you will find that they have a large area near the spawn which is just covered in half slabs, and it's to stop mob spawning. So that's that section built. So yes, the enemies would spawn up here, randomly wander off into the water, and I can sort of imitate one, then they would fall down here, fall into that water, and then be carried out here, where they land there. So I'm going to extend this so it has to be by multiples of... Actually, this one I don't think it has to be a multiple of 8, but I'm going to anyway. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's build the sides. Right, I'd forgotten about the elevator actually, so let's get some glass. Is that what I need? No, I need signs. And you shall see why in a moment. So, let's put some water here. So now they will flow all the way along to that point. And I'm going to put glass there, because this is how my elevator is set up. It has glass on the front so you can see the enemies going up. Can you place signs on glass? Yes, you can. Okay, then you could build the entire thing out of glass. So, build sort of that wall of glass. Now, I'm going to have to build that little archway there, but then the rest of it needs to be a vertical tube, or hollow cuboid, I suppose. I don't know, I'm not particularly fussed about shapes. Now, the first thing you need to do is put signs, doesn't matter what's on them, but put signs there and there on either side of that. And what this will mean is that we can... actually, I'm going to say also put signs at the bottom, like so. Just there, it doesn't matter anywhere else. And then fill this up with water. And you do have to do this layer by layer, else it just doesn't, else you'll miss bits, and that causes problems because monsters can swim up faster through source blocks that are still than it can through blocks that are flowing. And you'll notice that the signs actually prevent the water from flowing just out and down through here, and the monsters will still be carried up and into that area. Now it's important that as you build this, you don't build it so that it is completely water all the way up, else what will actually happen is the monsters will walk in there or be pushed in there, then as they're coming up they will drown. So at little intervals you just need to put a layer of signs, and then you can carry on with the water like so, and then you just keep doing that until it gets to the top. So I'm going to stop the video here, build more of this so that I can demonstrate it properly, and then you can come back in. Okay, so as you can see there's already quite a lot actually of monsters that have turned up, which I suspect the number of them is due to the fact that they can't spawn anywhere else. On a normal world you wouldn't get nearly this many from just one layer, simply because there's a finite number of monsters, or a limited number of monsters that can spawn in a certain area, but because this is a flat world there is no underground for them to spawn in. So one method for actually increasing the spawn rate of monsters inside your mob spawner is to go into all the caves underground for an awful long radius around. I think it's about 250 blocks, maybe 256 blocks around your mob spawner, and light up all the caves so no monsters can spawn. And that's not easy, admittedly. I mean, finding them all is a problem, although I have a little gizmo down there that I'll show you in a moment that can help with that. But let's go sort of through and under this mob spawner, and let's show you what the inside looks like now. Now this is kind of a crude version simply because it's not as big as it would be otherwise. There, now you can see. So you can see it's dark in here. I don't know, bats spawn in here. Maybe they don't in my one, I'm not sure. But yeah, the monsters are already spawning. It's worth noting that I've only put this ceiling 2 blocks high. In reality it would only be 2 blocks high above the water, because this ceiling would be the water trough of the next layer up. It would actually be higher on the walkways, which means that the mobs can actually walk over the half slabs, which they can't at the moment. Oh, the bats actually stick on the ceiling. Look at how cute they are. So yeah, let's shove a skeleton off into the water and follow it. There he goes. So you can see he falls in here. And we can actually join them. And there's lots of them, as you can see, that have already fallen through. No, I'm not even sure I get this many on my actual world. Ooh. Stop it. Of course, the skeletons do resist. Most of the mobs will actually resist the pull of the water. Especially in this case here. The idea is they get out and all they have to do is walk beyond that square. So as they sort of fill up in here, they'll be forced out through there. Well, actually, I think, yeah, most of the mobs have actually fallen out. So I might actually put some sort of horrible spike pit at the bottom. Where's some sand? Here we go, here's a fun way to kill monsters. Sand and... well, I'm looking for plants, that was it. Let's do this. This isn't going to work, is it? Oh well, let's instead then put the sand... I'm not sure how this is going to work. I was just going to have some cactus to kill them. There's several options that you've got for setting. I've got the one on my sort of home world actually drops the mobs far enough to kill them, or has the version where it drops them and just drops them into an area where I can kill them. There we go. Now they won't be able to get out. The fools. I can actually fill in the bottom now. Excuse me, sneeze. So yeah, that's how my mob spawn is built and how it works. Oh, also another interesting thing, you have to cover this area over, otherwise the mobs will not voluntarily walk out onto it, because they should set on fire. Yes, there we go. You're not supposed to be able to get out. So yeah, there's a mob spawner, and a fun little way of killing them at the end, although I should point out you will not be at all likely to be able to get the items back from them there. On my version I've got some pistons that can actually block off the tunnel up to the elevator to stop mobs from reaching it if I'm doing modifications up top. And also there are some doors, there's actually 2 exits out of my one. There's some doors that control which way they can go. You've got the one on the left which drops them into a place where I can kill the mobs, and the one on the right which drops them into a place where they'll just drop to their death. Now I said I was going to show you this little contraption because it's really quick. Again, this was something that I got from Monkey Farm, but this is a good way for finding caves underground. You have to use, I've got 2 pistons here which are activated by this lever. And they push some glowstone. You can either use glowstone or you can use TNT, but those are the only 2 blocks I've found this far that work. There probably are more. But what you do is you stand where the glowstone is going to be pushed into in this corner, and you flip the switch. And you'd be thinking that would kill you, but what it actually does is allows you to see through the world. So you can use this to find underground caves, because it'll show it's like when you've got a world hole, or when there's a glitch or a bug that allows you to see through the world, and all you have to do is walk straight out of it, and it won't harm you apparently. Or even if it does, you can just sort of walk out of it and not die. But yeah, it's sort of like an X-ray machine. So I think that about wraps it up for this video. I'm not going to go over all these contraptions. I've got there's another process like mob spawner here with an elevator. although that's actually a different function, and that one I'm not going to cover because that is something that Monkey Farm came up with, and I very specifically want you to go and find out from him. So I'll probably post a link to Monkey Farm's channel in the description, and I think that's everything. So thank you all for watching, guys, and hopefully I will see you next time.